Welcome to the first episode of Codwrestle News. I'm Will. That's Brandon. We are the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling Podcast. As always, let's cheers. Talk about some wrestling.
Yeah, we're going to try something a little bit new here. Usually we just do rankings and reviews and different things, but we're like, how about we actually get down and talk about some of the news in wrestling right now?
Yeah, I think it'd be a fun thing to do. Revisit maybe once a month, something like that, where we just cover all the crazy out of storyline wrestling news that's happening out there. So let's get right to it. It's not limited to just WWE per our usual stuff. We're going to go over professional wrestling as a whole. I listed out a few of the current topics that we've haven't been able to discuss on our podcast, so let's just get right to it. First one that I do want to talk about, we may be slightly late on it, but a big old Vince McMahon documentary did come out on Netflix a couple weeks ago. I want to say 3 weeks ago, right before my honeymoon, right before I left.
Yeah, like the day before, yeah.
Yeah, we weren't able to record about it because I left.
Yeah.
But we both finished all 6 or 8 episodes, one of the two.
Yeah, 6.
Going into it, it was sort of hailed as going to be a Vince McMahon hit piece, right? They were going to come after him, bury him alive. You know, we had reviews or reports come out before the Netflix documentary release that Vince was trying to buy it. Really trying to bury it as quickly as possible. So going into it, I was like, oh man, what is going to be in this thing? What is your initial thoughts and review on that?
Yeah, and even Vince, I think, had tweeted out like the day or two before and was like, this doesn't reflect me or something along those lines.
Yeah.
My initial thoughts about it were, as a wrestling fan, as we are and you are as well, like there wasn't anything there that I didn't already know.
Yep.
Like, Vince is a sick, twisted individual.
Yep.
And shouldn't condone his actions by any means, whether you like his ability to promote or don't or whatever the case may be. So I did some more research and people were like, oh, well, this is for the non-wrestling crowd, kind of the mainstream people. That just kind of seems a little bit difficult, I guess, because I feel like the only people that would watch it were kind of people that are exposed to wrestling in some way.
If you're not a wrestling fan, like at all, and you just hear about this guy named Vince McMahon, and you've heard about the allegations over the past few weeks or months, years, I guess, and you're like, ooh, I just want to see, all the horrible things that this guy has done, and kind of like how people love like murder mysteries and stuff like that. If you're going into it with that sort of style, that's not what this is. It's basically like a Cliff Notes, Spark Notes version of wrestling history and how WWE became a thing, with like hints of terrible Vince McMahon sprinkles in here and there, and terrible wrestling things in the past, like steroid abuse and what that's led to and how they treated women over the years. All that stuff that we all know is absolutely terrible. Don't condone it. But just in terms of this being a Vince hit piece, it just wasn't. At the end of the day, like it wasn't.
Yeah, and maybe we don't view it that way, or maybe you don't. I don't really know where I stand on that, because, like I said, we already knew some of the things.
Yeah.
So maybe those don't hit like they're like they should.
Yeah.
Or maybe other people thought that they would, because we were already kind of aware of that sort of thing. So if you have no idea about any of it, then yeah, maybe you could see it as that. I would have liked to see him sit down. Obviously, he declined to do like the final interviews after everything. I would have liked to see that part of it. I feel like that would have maybe opened things up a little bit deeper, so we all could kind of talk about that. But at the same time, like, you got the idea very early on from this documentary that like nobody knows Vince.
Yeah.
Vince is not Vince. Like, and that's kind of the storyline throughout the whole thing. Even though everybody's like, hey, the real Vince McMahon is very close to Mr. McMahon. I would agree that that's probably the case. Whether he wants to admit it or not, different story. But he tried to keep saying, nobody knows me, nobody knows me, nobody knows me. So then at that point, I was like, well, we'll never hear that side of things.
Yeah, I mean, right. When I say this isn't a hit piece, if you do any surface level Google search on the name Vince McMahon, you're going to find everything in this documentary and then some. So what I mean is it didn't like have groundbreaking news that like put the final layer of dirt over the Vince McMahon grave. It was just it just told you everything that you can already know. So
yeah.
In terms of it being like a wrestling documentary, it's actually kind of good in terms of just like learning how WWE came to rise and how Vince basically, credit where credit's due. He built this global entertainment spectacular into what it was, and this was kind of a very short version of how that became too.
Yeah, and I want to say Bill Simmons was on this. One way or another, executive producing this. Bill Simmons is he did the Andre the Giant one.
Yeah.
Bill Simmons always does a really good job on
Phenomenal
stuff. So if you haven't seen it, I would go watch it. It is
if you're a wrestling fan.
Yeah, I mean it's good to know, and like some of that stuff, like I said, maybe like I'd forgotten the fact that he wasn't around his real dad until he was like 12 or 13 or whatever the case may be. So there's bits and pieces in there, but definitely was thinking, like you said, the last layer of dirt. I was expecting something kind of groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Didn't get that, but like I said, don't condone anything he did, because it's very clear that Vince is a monster.
He's a bad dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that.
Yeah.
Let's move on, though. We got a bunch more news to talk about. There'll be a little bit shorter of interactions. We just had to go. It's six episodes of documentary. There's a lot to talk about. I feel like we summed it up pretty well. We move on, though. This is recently circulating as of the last day or two. Brock Lesnar and AJ Lee. WWE is interested in bringing them back. More specifically, Brock Lesnar. They're actually in talks with him to come back. What do we think about a potential Brock Lesnar return?
Ooh, that's kind of a loaded question, I feel like. As we just talked about the Vince stuff, he's obviously in that as well.
Yep.
So I think you're going to get that met with some people that don't want him to return because of that stuff. But then you also have some people that, admittedly, there are people out there that don't care.
Yeah.
Who just want to see Brock Lesnar back. So I guess I'd be intrigued to see how they navigate that more than anything, because that is a very touchy subject, as it should be. So it's interesting to see like how they're going to navigate that, how they're going to portray him on TV and things like that. I had realized a while back that they thought about him coming back or talked about it.
Yeah.
I don't really know where I stand on that. A little bit of both.
Yeah. Look, the Brock Lesnar WWE character, character when he's in the ring, I love him to death. I mean, he's just always been great. When I was a kid, he was he's the beast that was just throwing around the Undertaker and Hell in a Cell matches and doing moonsaults off the top rope. Just absolutely insane athlete. Goes to the UFC and all that stuff. But Brock Lesnar, the guy, has some blemishes now, right? I mean, he just does. If you want to look that stuff up, go ahead and look it up. He kind of, like you said, he's compiled in with some of the terrible Vince stuff recently. My thing is, as much as I love the character of Brock Lesnar, the real life stuff is big enough, and WWE is doing a good job of building stars as is right now, that you don't need to force this comeback in. You don't need him to come back. It's just not necessary. Where is he going to fit in right now? Like, you'd have to just kind of throw him into scenes that wouldn't make a lot of sense. Brock, he's going to want to be in the main event scene. There's no room for him in the main event scene. So just no.
Yeah, as I started thinking about it as you were talking, it's like, well, I don't know where they put him. It just feels out of place. And they're doing a good enough job now, and they don't have enough screen time for people now.
Right.
That it's already like, okay, how about we just hold off on that? Kind of a blessing in disguise, if you will. Like, that came up, and Brock was obviously taken off TV, as he should have been, with everything that allegedly happened, I guess. So that makes sense there. And they were able to take the ball and run with that and create new people. And they've done a great job at it.
Yeah. Yeah, couldn't agree more. The AJ Lee stuff, there's nothing tangible there. There's not talks, at least reported so far, but WWE themselves have come out and said that they would be interested in that. Not much to talk about there. I think we're both in agreement. We love to see her. All right.
Yeah.
Moving on to AEW, something we don't normally talk about, but former WWE guy, Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, formerly in WWE, he retired recently from full-time in-ring action at AEW Wrestle Dream. Jon Moxley, formerly known as Dean Ambrose, put him down. If you want to see the ending of that match, it's a complicated story, and some would say it was really good stuff. Anyway, end of an era. Got to give him his props. Phenomenal in-ring talent. Just one of the all-time great wrestlers.
Yeah, kind of one of those wrestlers that you didn't, at a time where you didn't really have that wrestler, at least in WWE was.
Yep.
Yeah, great career for him. Would have liked to see him. Admittedly, I'm kind of up on the fence, or kind of torn, I guess. Part of me is like, man, I kind of wish he didn't go to AEW, but I understand why he went to AEW. But yeah, great career. Not much more else to say. I mean, one of the little guys, and that yes movement, at least for WWE wise, I mean, that's something that is all time. So, and such like an organic thing, you know?
Yeah, the WrestleMania 30 moment with the whole yes movement. I mean, it was the We Want Cody 10 years prior to the We Want Cody. And it worked, and Daniel Bryan blew the roof off the place. He is the definition of an overachiever in wrestling. I mean, he was the small guy who, he wasn't biggest dude in the world. He wasn't the most, handsome guy in the world, right? They weren't pushing him for any of the reasons that sometimes guys get pushed. Found a way to make it big in both companies. Whatever you think about his AEW stint, I thought it was fine. It sounds like we're going to be getting a little bit of him here and there for now on. This isn't a full retirement. So eventually hopefully he gets his like big time retirement match that is planned, and that we can all celebrate him and he can leave his boots in the ring, because that man deserves it. So anyway, we'll move on. Logan Paul, he had a podcast yesterday with Mr. Jelly Roll, and they were talking about SummerSlam. Okay. And Jelly Roll, he said that he caught the wrestling bug. He went and he bought himself a ring. I mean, I don't know. I mean, all to him, Jelly Roll. He got some good choke slams on Austin Theory and Grayson Waller there. But anyway, the news that came from this is that they started to talk about Jacob Fatu, the bloodline. And when they mentioned Jacob Fatu, Logan Paul said, that guy is incredible. Him and I are going to meet very soon, and we are going to tear the house down. So it sounds like some way, somehow, Logan Paul and Jacob Fatu are going to meet in the very near future. What do we think about that?
Oh, God. This is the first I'm hearing about that. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say if they do meet, something Rumble-esque, where it's just like a short face-to-face sort of thing. Fatu is a star. Logan Paul, I mean, he's good in the ring when he's there. He's just never there. Also, you run into the fact of, like, they're both technically heels. Like, Fatu's a heel. Logan, last time we saw him, is a heel. Logan can't play the face role. Yeah. So I'm a little iffy on that. I just don't need to see anything like that. As much as Logan probably wants that to happen, like, I'm out on that.
Yeah, I'm completely out on it too. Like where is it going to fit? Why would it happen? Like Logan Paul, like you said, he's a heel. He's not going to come back and be a face. I don't even think WWE could pull off turning Logan face in the eyes of the crowd, because he's just a natural heel, and it's great. I love Logan when he is actually there doing his thing. But I mean, come on, like Jacob Fatu is going to be in the middle of this bloodline stuff and be like, no, Solo, I have to go take care of business with Logan Paul. It's like, huh? So maybe you're right. Maybe it's just like a Rumble interaction that they already have planned type deal. That's all I can say.
And maybe he just, Logan is notorious for saying things to say things.
Yeah.
So that's probably what it was. That's what I'm hoping it was.
It just sounded very intentional. So who knows? We will. We're going to jump back on over to AEW for just a little bit here. AEW on October 15th filed for the trademark Friday Night Dynamite. Is AEW going to go try to take on SmackDown on Fridays? And what's our reaction to that?
Oh, man. I mean, I guess so if they're filing for the trademark.
Yeah.
Is that a good idea? I think that's a very bad idea.
Don't do it, AEW.
I think that's a very bad idea. I think Wednesdays is fine for them. Yeah. I mean, there's no other wrestling on Wednesday night.
Yep.
They're kind of the main show in town. And admittedly, even at times, they've struggled doing that. So to go head-to-head with WWE on Friday night, even if you make it later, which might be what they do, they might go on from like a 9 to 11, like after SmackDown, so they don't compete. That's a terrible time slot.
Yeah.
So I would just say stay away from that, just in any sense of the form. Like just stick to your Wednesday night. You could even maybe go Thursday night. I know TNA's on Thursdays, but like if you want to compete with somebody, you could at least do something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, don't do this for multiple reasons. It's like Friday Night SmackDown has always been difficult in terms of like just fitting that into your schedule, especially like growing up, like, going through college and stuff. It was like, you really have to take a bite out of your social life if you have one and sit down for a couple hours to watch SmackDown on a Friday night, especially when you have other people around you that are wanting you to do stuff. And we're big wrestling fans, so we do it. We I don't want to use the word sacrifice, but that's, sacrifice part of our Friday nights to watch professional wrestling. And we watch it at the highest quality right now with like Roman Reigns and all of them. And so it makes it a lot easier. AEW, admittedly, I don't personally think is on much of a hot streak. And if you jump into what you said, like a 9 to 11 slot on a Friday, there's just no chance I'm watching that, man. Absolutely not. And I'm a guy who likes the existence of AEW. Every once in a while we tune into it. Whenever it comes to Kansas City, we're there. But I'm not jumping in on a 9 to 11 slot or anything like that on a Friday night. Dude, you will never catch me watching Dynamite.
No, I mean, even with Rampage, right? Rampage was Friday night after SmackDown, and the numbers weren't there.
No.
So, like you said, Friday nights have always been tough. One way or you have family stuff or you've got sports or, like you said, there's a certain point, high school, college, like you grow up and you're like, I want to go do these things. I want to hang out with my friends. Like, so in order to get like the new generation, like you kind of have to have people that are like past the college stuff or like kids to watch it with parents that, have time to devote to that. It's just a rough thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't, it's a bad idea, but it's just a trademark. So who knows? Maybe it's smoke and mirrors.
Like Cody Rhodes.
Smoke and mirrors. Yeah. He's coming back to AEW. No, PWI, Pro Wrestling Illustrated. They put out the last 20, the top 20 of their women's top 250 list.
Okay.
On that list, Toni Storm, AEW, number 1.
Okay.
And Jordynne Grace, TNA. She's also graced WWE at times. She came up as number 2. Some shocking things here, though. Not a lot of WWE women's talent here in the top 20, I would say. You got Rhea Ripley at 3. Okay. You had Bayley at 7. Roxanne Perez ahead of Liv Morgan, 11 and 12. Io Sky at 13. Becky Lynch at 17, Lyra Valkyria at 20, leaving off Bianca Belair in the top 20. How do you feel about those rankings?
Yeah, I feel like Bianca's got to be in the top 20.
Yeah.
I feel like you could mix or move somebody around there. I feel like, you have Lyra in, but you don't have...
Becky?
Yeah, and you have Becky, and you said Lyra, right?
Yeah,
Bianca could just take one of those spots.
Yeah, I just don't... Becky would have been easy to not put in the top 20. Not out of disrespect to Becky, but she's semi-retired. She hasn't competed since King of the Ring or whatever it was.
She had that one match on Raw
the night after, the rematch for the title, the steel cage.
Yeah,
but it's been months and months and months. I feel like Lyra at that time was doing better work than Becky. I think in terms of she carried that Queen of the Ring tournament, and she's done stuff on NXT. Mm-hmm. So. That would have been an easy switch up for me. I'm kind of shocked that Bianca didn't make the top 20.
Yeah, and I think maybe in a later video we'll kind of go into. I have my own thoughts as to why Bianca's maybe not because, I guess I can just get into it. Bianca is in the tag team, so it maybe takes away from her singles thing, which is maybe how they're going to justify that.
Yeah.
But still, even then, Bianca's got to be in your top 20. That's ridiculous that she's not. As for Toni Storm being number 1, I would agree with that. I think Toni Storm's been on a great run.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So 1, 2, and 3, I feel like the way that this has been lately, those 1, 2, and 3 interchangeable, but those are kind of your top 3. But Bianca, for me, got to be top 10, 11, 12, somewhere in there.
Yeah, top 20 at the very least. I know she's you just said,
bare minimum. Yeah.
She's been trapped in the tag team division, but she still puts on shows, and she's still in my opinion, she's the best woman in the ring that isn't named Charlotte. When she does do her thing, I know that stories play into the top. I get it. Their actual role within their company, and Toni Storm very much deserved for AEW. My thing here, I do like Roxanne Perez being top 15 above Liv Morgan. I think that is 100% deserved, and it tells you that other people feel the same way about Liv's title run in terms of her not being very in-ring oriented during this run. It's been very much about the Dom stuff and the Rhea stuff and the promos and that story. While Roxanne Perez has been putting on shows and down in NXT.
Yeah, she's been putting on shows. I would still like to see her become a face again because I don't really like the heel work that she did. To be honest, it's okay. It's for me, it's very tough for her to be a believable heel. But yeah, she should get some credit. She's been at least putting in the work and putting in the effort level at least.
I agree. Couple more here. We are going to go into injuries real quick. We have had a couple. We're going to highlight two that have happened within the last couple weeks here on Raw and SmackDown. You do have Braun Strowman, who tore his groin. That sucks. And then you have AJ Styles, whose knee injury was actually a part of the match. It was kayfabe, but he got a Liz Frank injury. I don't know how to pronounce it. Sorry. It is an ankle and foot injury, and AJ Styles was quoted saying, "It feels like there's a bone sticking out of my foot." So both of these guys going to miss significant time, it sounds like, and that sucks.
Yeah, as for Braun Strowman, he's kind of always, well, at least as of late, he's been having injuries and been having injuries.
He's a big dude.
So that sucks to see that kind of continue to happen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think it might be time for him to kind of look and maybe reevaluate some things. If he does come back, at least reevaluate maybe the move set or something like that.
No more going through cars and that type of stuff.
Running around trains and outside. Yeah. And then as for AJ Styles, watching that live, I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, okay, this is, part of the storyline. As we've come to find out, not the case. It is an actual thing. I know a New York Giants lineman this week suffered the same injury, and he's out for the year. So,
oh my God.
So he's out for...
Man, when I read up on this, I knew it was serious, but I didn't know it was that.
Yeah, so he's out. No. So he's out for the year. Just a New York Giants left tackle. Andrew Thomas, I think his name is. So it's at least a few months minimum. I mean, it's a long time.
Man, it just sucks overall because Braun's injury could really be a career ender.
We hope that that's not the case.
No, of course not. And I think that his work with Bronson Reed is some of his best highlighted stuff in his career. It's going to be great to look back on eventually. And it seems like they were kind of giving him respect in that aspect of Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman were starting to redefine what like the monster character can be in the WWE recently. So things were looking good for him, and now they're turning. And he's a man. We all know he takes care of his body like nobody else. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does power through it and come back, but that sucks. And then AJ Styles, I didn't know it was that bad. If it is that bad, that really sucks because there's been rumors for the last year and a half about the idea of an AJ Styles kind of send off tour happening at some point. And now, if that gets delayed even more, you run into the John Cena farewell tour. And I think that AJ Styles deserves not a John Cena level farewell tour, but he deserves a couple good programs to end his illustrious reign here in the WWE, and hopefully he can come back and get back to the AJ Styles that we know and love, because that man is one of one in the ring.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough for me because like the Cena farewell tour is already coming up. We obviously already know that. Like you said, this might be kind of pushing AJ more towards that as well, and like those are two guys that I grew up with watching, even when TNA wasn't like a very, very big thing, and I'd find it on my TV in my room and be like, what is this? And I'd watch AJ Styles. I was like, holy hell, this guy's
hanging
amazing.
From what match was that where they would have the ropes in the title? They'd have to like...
Yeah, it's like the X Division title or whatever, and they just like scale it and stuff. I remember
like AJ Styles on that. That stuff was wild. Mm-hmm. And that freaking octagonal ring, hexagonal ring. I don't remember which it was. It was 6 sides. Six sides.
Yeah, hexagon.
God. Hope the best for both of them. Injuries suck. Two more things here. Good news here. WrestleMania 41 ticket prices are insane. I mean, believe it or not. It's taking place in Las Vegas, so already a insane place to do anything in. But the big packages were released this week, and I highlighted the three. I highlighted the Silver, the Champion, and the Undertaker, which are kind of like the three. Which are like the lowest level, the middle level, and the highest level, right? Silver package, your silver package. It's upper level seating. It's access to WWE World. Like you get priority. I'm guessing they have a different gate that you get to walk in without having to wait in a line. And then you get a kickoff party that you get to go to, where I guess Cody Rhodes is going to make an appearance. So that's cool. $1,500 a ticket. $1,500 a ticket. Oh boy. Champion is the middle ground. It's got floor seating, which is really nice. Mm-hmm. It's got a photo op. It's got Top Golf with The Miz. That's pretty sick. And it's got a hospitality thing where Cena will also make an appearance. $7,000 a person. Oh, and then you got the Undertaker package. The damn Undertaker. $10,000.
For $10,000, I better go one-on-one with the Undertaker.
Yeah, I mean, you are in a suite. That's cool. But the thing about wrestling is like that squared circle gets smaller and smaller. So if you're in it doesn't really matter how nice your suite is. The further you go, the smaller that ring looks. Taker is going to make an appearance in your suite. You're going to take a photo with his title and the urn. You get to go on Top Golf with The Miz, and you get a Taker themed gift. $10,000. Hey, you want to go to Mania? It's time. You got to pay the big bucks. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides of this, right? Like WWE continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, so everything's going to be more expensive. Realistically, it sucks for the average everyday person because, like, I've never seen a WrestleMania. You've been to a couple. Obviously, we're thinking about going. We don't make money for these packages, but we'll look into tickets. But you think about the average everyday fan who has a family who like, man, I want to take my kids to WrestleMania someday. The prices and the packages are just, they're so expensive. It makes that tough to happen. You're kind of pricing out the average fan.
Yeah, when I graduated high school, my present from my dad, and I'm very lucky for this, my dad took me to WrestleMania 31, and they were doable. I remember him showing me the prices for the tickets. I don't remember, but it was like going to a Chiefs game now level of tickets, which is expensive, but doable. I don't want WrestleMania to become the Super Bowl, where like the Chiefs, we've been lucky enough for the Chiefs to go to 4 of them lately. And every single year, I'm not going to go, but I always want to look at tickets just to see.
You kind of have to look at tickets, right?
And it's just thousands for the most shitty spot in the, you don't even know if you're going to get in the stadium, right? And now it feels like wrestling's starting to do that. And like you have to buy like these ridiculous packages, or you have to get like an invite, or like somebody has to sponsor you to go. And that just feels crummy, man, because wrestling at the end of the day, we all love wrestling because we probably found it when we were kids. And it feels like the place where it's the spectacle for all ages of wrestling fans to be able to go. It's like Disney World for wrestling for 2 nights now. Thank God it's 2 nights now. And now it's the most expensive it's ever been for 2 nights. Mm-hmm. And that's hard.
And don't get us wrong. Like, these are just the exclusive kind of first come, first serve packages. So like, we know tickets go on sale. I think it's the 25th or 23rd, one of those two. And they're going to be cheaper. We understand that.
Yeah.
But they're still going to be expensive.
Right.
It's come a long ways from when it was like, $2 for the territory days. Or, $3 for front row
Please
seating.
fill up the Silver Dome. Please.
Yeah. Just, it's really tough because it makes it hard. Like, if you wanted, a father, like a dad, a wife, 2 kids, I mean, you're looking at thousands of dollars. Like,
it's travel. Mm-hmm. You have to go to location, hotels. It's so much more than just going to like your football game and stuff. And we've looked every year at prices, and they're always ridiculous, right?
Yep.
So, Anyway, we'll still try to get one, maybe. Last topic of discussion.
Make sure to like and subscribe so we can go.
Yeah, please. But tell your friends about the podcast.
Spare some change.
Yeah, tell your friends about the podcast. Anyways. Last thing we're going to talk about here on the first episode of Codwrestle News. Lots of reports this week about The Rock not being able to make WrestleMania 41. Bunch of people reported about it, but The Rock, in a tweet, responded to somebody commenting on the report and said something along the lines of, "You're out of your mind for thinking this," or a bunch of crap. What do we think about this? Is The Rock's got to show up to Mania 41.
I mean, this one is simple. Rock is not missing WrestleMania 41.
Right.
There's too many things. There's the Roman, the Bloodline stuff. Then there's the Cody stuff. And it's in Vegas, which isn't too far from, Hollywood. Like, and I'm sure The Rock goes to Vegas all the time.
Yeah.
Like, this is just, there's no way he's not going to be there.
Yeah, this is a classic smoke and mirrors moment for wrestling.
Whoa!
Yeah, that. Classic. I mean, he's going to show up, and it would be irresponsible if this actually was a thing, because he himself has planted such big seeds in the Bloodline storyline to where we know that there's going to have to be some blow-off matches in the biggest venue that there is, which is WrestleMania every year. It would be irresponsible of him to take up so much of this big Bloodline spotlight and then not show up when the spotlight's the brightest.
I mean, why would you come out to Bad Blood?
Yeah.
Why would you show out for that and then just not That's just it.
Yeah,
That's all we get.
He's showing up to Atlanta, but he can't show up for Vegas. Come on now, Rock.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's all a bunch of BS. I think we get in a match from The Rock for sure. Anyway, though, that's our first little Codwrestle Codwrestle news segment here. We just went over a bunch of the current wrestling news headlines that are taking place. We probably do this once a month, maybe. Let us know if you like it in the comments, because it's definitely something that we'd like to talk about. Get outside of kayfabe wrestling and talk about like the realistic stuff that actually happens on a day-to-day basis. So
and if you guys like it, we might do it more often.
Yep.
So just something to try and see, like Will said, if we like it, like we kind of like doing this stuff. Hopefully you guys do too. Hopefully you guys have opinions on all this stuff as well. Go ahead and comment those or comment your thoughts on the Vince stock or the Rock or WrestleMania prices, anything like that.
And Venmo us some money so we can go to WrestleMania. Thank you so much.
Most importantly, that we'll set up a Venmo as well.
There we go. Anyway, follow us on all of our socials at CodWrestlePod, CODWrestlePod. Listen to us wherever you get your podcasts at: YouTube, Spotify, Apple, etc. And if you want to come talk to us, we do have a Discord. Go to the link tree in our bio. It's got all of our socials. Go ahead and follow all of those. We greatly appreciate it. I'm Will. That's Brandon. We are the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling Podcast, and we will see you next time.